So it's been a little while since Season 2 of the Halo Infinite multiplayer Lone Wolves dropped, and with it we got entire new armor cores. Well, it's given me time to mull over those new armors and get a feel for them and the information surrounding them. There are some interesting deviations from the normal expectations of a Mjolnir armor platform that are worth looking into and speculating on. And for those of us who are particularly astute, there is some interesting emergent implied lore surrounding some of the armor pieces that I'd like to bring to your attention. But first off, let's go through all the known lore on the Rakshasa Armor Core. Rakshasa armor was developed by Lethbridge Industrial and was battle-tested by Delta 6 hunter-killer teams and disruption operatives who ranged far into the former Covenant core worlds. Key to its success are multiple levels of subsystem redundancy and integral self-repair systems. The Rakshasa is versatile, easy to maintain and comfortable to wear for extended periods of time, critical advantages for long-duration remote operations in hostile environments. A slightly updated version of the archaic AN-PZY-800 sensor used by Spartan operatives that must carry a minimum of network-enabled gear, as AI-designed hardware may now be susceptible to exploits crafted by created security forces. Dewspring is an uplink coprocessor which provides hardware acceleration for interpreting deep-layer Covenant proselytization network protocols which remain in widespread use by various remnant forces and pocket empires. Anarchic podnets used by urban youth and frontier communities for local communications can be useful sources of intelligence if Spartans know to listen in. The Rasetsu has much more in common with the Rakshasa helmet, but with optimizations for long-term survival in atmospheres tainted by corrosive agents, chemical weapons, and biological threats. Uller was a demonstration program for generation after next observation technologies and evaluation of the experimental Mimira interface, both of which require a smart AI to function at their full potential. Assembled in limited numbers aboard the UNSC Infinity, this rebuild of the classic AN-PZY-990T sensor suite uses a custom BattleNet channel and full-spectrum machine link to take advantage of modern communication hardware. The Akis 2 GRD was built for superhuman stalkers, killers and assassins. After some detuning and removal of still classified subsystems, it serves the needs of Spartans as well. Most of the functionality of this Thea-compatible targeting module remains locked and undocumented. Even the highest-ranking Oni officers on the UNSC Infinity lack authority to access its low-level diagnostic functions. The few Lechuza helmets currently in use were found in an abandoned Oni black site by UNSC Infinity scout teams in late 2559. While clearly intended for use by Spartans, details of its design and intended role had been purged from the facility's data core. These modules contain an unknown type of programmable matter and hives for nanomachine swarms that augment a Spartan's respiratory efficiency. The machines become inert outside of the helmet or host Spartan, which complicates analysis. Locating, identifying, tracking and communicating the status of highly elusive targets of opportunity are tasks at which Shikari excels. Among lone wolf operatives, the helmet systems make it highly effective in the ambush predator role. A miniaturized and improved version of the revolutionary information fusion system fitted to the Argus helmet. Unfortunately, Spartan 4s lack the cognitive flexibility to make use of the pattern wolf for more than a few minutes at a time. The modular Project Artaius combat exoframe helmets can be made fully compatible with both Gen 2 and Gen 3 Mjolnir-powered assault armor with plug-in interface packs. No military research project is an island, even those used by Spartans. For example, Project Artaius is a spin-off from Project Gamma, and the pattern collects data needed for the Cobalt combat drone initiative. The capabilities of the Stribog reconnaissance suite owes much to the relationships BRS has built with Sangheili mercantile interests, recent advances in high-precision fabricators, and operation evaluation of created innovations. Oni claims the Rosekey's lattice-based encryption is invulnerable to any time-bound cryptanalytic attack. The most sensitive sensor elements of the Stribog faceplate can be covered by this manufacturer-supplied armor panel, though it does impede function. Simple and cheap armor plating fabricated using frontier manufacturing equipment. Experimental tactical hacking module, AI containment partitions, and specialist gyroc rounds for delivering network intrusion and burnout filaments into created constructs. Made famous by CMA orbital quarantine boarding parties, the M25 holds a combat knife, reaction mass cells for thruster units, and protective armor plating over an emergency survival bubble pack. Adaptation of the CDIS underwater communication systems used by UNSC Army divers. Banished battleplate is not quite as sophisticated as top-of-the-line Mjolnir armor panel. Yet. Get tactical with chem lights, extra magazines, and 5 Soulcraft multi-edge 40 loitering munitions. Countering created knowledge of Mjolnir architecture requires out-of-the-box thinking for deception, such as adapting spacecraft cooling tech to mask a Spartan's heat signature. Atriox codified and standardized many elements of Jiralhane military design after studying UNSC doctrine. The accessory rail allows for the attachment of various banished accessories and equipment packs. Designed by Mjolnir technicians aboard the UNSC Infinity to minimize use of dwindling stocks of strategic materials and maximize protection against current threat vectors. Oni listen-only antenna and decryption module to receive covert macrospleen protocol wavespace message bursts, adapted for mounting on Mjolnir armor. A cunning combination of human engineering and Kigya ingenuity which allows the user to access UEG, UNSC, Covenant, and Venetian datanets with near-perfect anonymity. Prototype and damaged Mjolnir components illicitly recovered from salvage depots and upcycled by Savine as up armor for well-heeled Venetian mercenaries. The Iota 12 is a rugged, dependable, and ubiquitous data net terminal widely used by colonists and adventurers. UNSC resistance fighters make extensive use of them to create impromptu, mobile mesh battle nets. Spartans who serve tours of duty with the swords of Sanghelios have a tendency to adopt their custom for taking war trophies. With UNSC leadership no longer exercising operational control over the Spartans, there are few who can censure the practice. The Prophet suppressed many Sangheili martial practices they deemed distasteful, including Shawashawash, a tradition of displaying the skulls of particularly recalcitrant foes after their defeat and ritual dismemberment. To evade created detection before assaults, UNSC technicians have developed a field-expedient method of using cryogenic liquids and superconductive heat piping to significantly reduce a Mjolnir suit's thermal signature for short periods. Incorporates an additional underlayer to mitigate infiltration by flood spores, nanomachines, and corrosive liquids. Eyes, hand, gun, result. Though not suggested for long-term use, ballistic bandages and flexar strips are suitable to protect the delicate internal mechanisms of damaged Mjolnir gauntlets until they can be replaced. Shooting glove with mounted brackets for shock knuckles. Emerson sees great potential in designing protective gear for warfighters and extreme sports enthusiasts. The Excudo line is marketed to both. Wrist armor in the style used by New Harmony veterans. High speed, low drag. Back to basics. A fully laden hospital-grade medical kit with enough supplies to keep a small army alive. Specialized tools for the most delicate and cruel excisions, exhibitions, and exsanguinations. Highly classified until the final years of the Covenant War, modified red scan devices are now used as a fallback option to interlink with alien machinery if the Spartan's tactical digital assistant is disabled. Simple yet functional knee pads which combine non-rigid ballistic composite and hydrostatic gel for kinetic and thermal protection. Don't mess with success, particularly when your freedom and life is on the line. Extreme sports equipment, particularly those used for combat exhibitions and warplay, are built to most UNSC mil-spec standards. If it's any consolation, your knee will shatter before the armor plate. Butterfly attachment with small thruster module for use in microgravity boarding actions or emergency close-range incendiary attacks. Provides another drag bar for quick transport of incapacitated Spartans. The engineers at Materials Group can learn a thing or two about armour design from the Banished. Now, save for the visor colours, which have very short and non-descriptive descriptions, that is basically all armour components in the Rakshasa Armor Core. However, like I said, there are a few things here that we need to look at. First and foremost, something that I'm sure practically everyone has noticed, is the absence of nuclear fusion reactor casings. On practically every other iteration of Mjolnir armour that has ever been developed, it has had these large modules over the shoulder blades. These modules are specially hardened armoured casings for the miniaturized nuclear fusion power pack that powers all Mjolnir platforms since the Mark IV platform. Yet this suit entirely lacks them altogether. For a Mjolnir-powered assault armour platform, that is unheard of. However, it's not unheard of outside of Mjolnir. Marine body armour, ODST body armour, these both lack the hardened modules, but then they don't require that much of a power supply. Maybe a small battery to keep, say, the heads-up display working on the Marine's helmet and the ODST's visor system, but nothing anywhere near the energy requirements of a nuclear fusion power pack. The very fact that Mjolnir is a powered assault armour means it's a prerequisite to have some sort of mobile power source that can provide all of the energy that's required, not just to power the suit and all of its subsystems, but to keep its energy shields functioning as well. But there is another platform that does lack these modules, but nevertheless is still used by Spartans, and that is the semi-powered infiltration armour. Now, the SPI armour, or spy armour as some people call it, was used almost exclusively by the Spartan 3s. It lacked some of the power assist systems that Mjolnir has, as well as some of the reaction increase systems and various other subsystems, but succeeded in being a lighter, cheaper armour alternative for Spartan operatives. The Spartan 3s used these to great effect on numerous suicide missions, and one of its most powerful tools was a passive camouflage system, which was activated via photoreactive panels across the surface of the armour, which could blend the armour into the surroundings. This did require some additional energy sources, but nowhere near the requirements of, say, a fusion pack. And as such, it wasn't necessary to have hardened modules over the shoulder blades. They could just use integrated battery systems. And as far as being able to be as powerful as a normal Spartan, again, this was a semi-powered platform, so it did have a form of power assist, but was nowhere near the scale and amplitude of Mjolnir systems. This still didn't stop Spartan 3s from performing superhuman feats of strength. Spartan 3 Olivia G291, during an operation on the planet Gao, destroyed a foreigner aggressor sentinel with her bare hands while wearing semi-powered infiltration armour, and she did this with 2 broken femurs, ripping the foreigner metal apart with her bare hands. So circling back to Rakshasa armour, the lack of these modules over the shoulder blades for the fusion pack may not necessarily mean that it's lacking some form of power assist. It could be well back from what Mjolnir standard could be, but it could be semi-powered, very similarly to the semi-powered infiltration armour. Another alternative to this is that there's been huge innovations in prototype energy production systems, although you'd expect something like that to be tested and to see battle on a Mjolnir platform first. It's not outside of the boundaries of imagination that perhaps a side cell to the Office of Naval Intelligence or the UNSC or one of its affiliate companies didn't use their own platform to field test this new innovation. In Dr. Halsey's journal, she discusses innovations she would have liked to see for the Mark VII platform of Mjolnir, one of which includes a hybridized power generation system, a hybrid plasma nuclear fusion energy power cell, merging together both Covenant and human technology. But the reality is, we're now a good few years past the end of the Human-Covenant War, and humanity has come into contact on more than a few occasions with Forerunner artifacts, as well as some isolated incidents of coming in contact with ancient human technological artifacts. It's possible, although relatively unlikely, that the Rakshasa Armor Core actually features either a form of the vacuum energy systems that the Foreigners use for their technology, or a as of yet unknown energy system that has been reverse engineered from ancient human technology. I will say that's highly unlikely, because if it was something along those lines, that's a massive plot point for innovations going into the future, so as such you'd expect them to kind of sing about it a little bit. But nevertheless, there's my opinion and speculations on exactly why this armour is lacking these modules. Moving on from that, another thing I find interesting is the Lechuza AML-201, which said that it contains nanomachines and programmable matter that can augment Spartan respiratory efficiency. Now, it's interesting that there's this introduction of nanomachines and programmable matter, because, in theory at least, while it does say that it's meant to additionally augment Spartan respiratory efficiency, I don't see how it would differ that dramatically from a normal human's respiratory efficiency, which in turn has a knock-on suggestion at least that this kind of material, this programmable matter and nanomachines, could be used to massively increase the respiratory efficiency of a normal baseline human being, and with an ability to uptake a much higher quantity of oxygen and purge carbon dioxide from the blood much more efficiently, human endurance would go up exponentially. And this is then beginning to pave the way for basic, normal human augmentation technology, systems or technology that can heavily augment and upgrade base human traits without the needs of going through with a Spartan augmentation procedure. And moving on from this again, but still in the same kind of territory, the Akis 2 GRD helmet. Its description read, was built for superhuman stalkers, killers and assassins. After some detuning and removal of still classified subsystems, it serves the needs of Spartans as well. Why would there be a helmet available to the Office of Naval Intelligence or the UNSC that had to be detuned and have classified systems removed from the helmet to serve the needs of a Spartan, when the helmet was seemingly developed for superhuman stalkers, killers and assassins? That to me sounds like they actually downgraded that helmet to suit the needs of Spartans, which suggests there's something bigger, better, more advanced than Spartans. Superhuman stalkers, killers and assassins. That was the wording used. Is this hinting at the possibility of a new type of super soldier in the UNSC or the Office of Naval Intelligence? Maybe a kind of Spartan 5, but a completely different set of augmentations, and thus they've had to reclassify it. Superhuman stalkers, killers and assassins. Now again, we're not alien to the practice of superhuman abilities. Ilza Zane, for example, was intended to be a Spartan 4 candidate, but was given very prototyped augmentations that killed 9 of the 10 other candidates. Only Ilza Zane survived, and she was powerful enough after these augmentations that she could actually have a hand-to-hand fight with a fully armoured Spartan. And even aside from this, a cocktail of drugs developed by the Insurrection, known as Rumble Drug, was known to be taken by certain rebels in a vainglorious attempt to fight Spartan 2s. The cocktail effectively removed the body's normal safety limits on how fast or how powerful certain gestures and movements should be to avoid self-injury. It removes those completely, resulting in inhuman levels of strength and speed, but there's also a severe lack of control and severe mental instability. There's also immediate psychological damage that is imparted to the user and basically means that their bodies usually go into a deteriorating state long before they actually ever get the opportunity to get close enough to a Spartan to actually fight them. So again, these cocktail of drugs, they're out there. Alterations, chemical alterations to a human's physiology to turn them into a superhuman are already established parts of Halo lore. So is this nodding towards, hinting towards, or suggesting that there's new super soldiers out there somewhere in the Halo universe? Superhumans that are even more powerful than Spartans. They perhaps use augmentations that have been reverse engineered from ancient human augmentations, as the Office of Naval Intelligence have come into contact with numerous ancient human artifacts, including an ancient human ship, with examples of ancient human armor and possibly even corpses of ancient humans inside. Maybe it's just a massive innovation in these Spartan augmentations to a point that they can't be called, say, a Spartan 5. Instead, they have to completely reclassify it and make it something completely separate. Or maybe the wording is just peculiar in that it says that it's superhuman stalkers, killers, and assassins, and rather than that meaning they're superhuman stalkers and superhuman killers and superhuman assassins, they are stalkers, killers, and assassins whose job it is to go after superhumans, such as the Spartans. In which case this armor may be reverse engineered from Insurrectionist technology that they developed specifically to go up against and to hunt down Spartan super soldiers. Honestly, on this I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know exactly how to take it, so I'd love to hear what you have to say about the particulars of this superhuman stalker and the detuning and removal of still classified subsystems. I'd love to hear your take on what exactly is going on here in the implied lore. As always, comment sections down below. You know what to do. Thanks for watching, commenting, liking and subscribing. I just want to give a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members: Spartan10148, my Metarch, Dylan, Falcon X003, Kenwood, Irrefutable Justice, Leon, Neek and Ramiz, my monitors, Alvin, Andrew, Brand, Brian, Cameron, Chris, Darian, Devon, Flaming Halo, Greenblood, Kyle, Legions Lost, Michael, Prophet Bear, Spartan and Wolf, my sub-monitors, my fleet of Strato Sentinels, my diligent enforcers, and all the other awesome people that have jumped aboard to support the channel over at Patreon. Another shout out to Todd Morrison, my Transcendent YouTube member. And just one quick reminder to support us on all major social media channels, including Discord. Much love from 00. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.